On a frigid November evening in downtown Chicago, as the wind curled between the glass towers and the last streaks of daylight sank beneath Lake Michigan, Daniel Foster stood on the edge of the Monroe Street Bridge. His shoes, polished once but now dulled by weeks of neglect, perched precariously on the narrow ledge. His breath clouded in the cold air, his heart hammered against his ribs, and his mind echoed with failures louder than the rush of the dark water below. A once successful corporate attorney, Daniel had lost it all, his career, his marriage, and, worst of all, his belief that life could get better. He gripped the rusted iron railing tighter, the freezing metal biting into his palms. No one noticed him, no one ever did anymore. Cars hummed past, hurried commuters averted their gazes, immersed in their own worlds. He thought, maybe this is how it ends. Quietly. Invisibly. And then, a voice. Small, uncertain, yet piercing in the stillness. "Hey, mister, are you okay?" Daniel blinked. Below the bridge, just off the sidewalk, stood a boy. 11 or 12, maybe younger. His coat was too big, frayed at the seams, and his sneakers had gaping holes at the toes. His thin face was smudged, and his dark curls clung to his forehead from the cold. But his eyes, they were impossibly bright. Soft brown and filled with something Daniel hadn't seen in a long time, concern. Genuine, unguarded concern from a stranger. Daniel's throat tightened. "Go home, kid. You don't need to see this." The boy didn't budge. He stepped closer, shivering slightly but unwavering. "I don't have a home." He shrugged like it was just a fact, not something to pity. I just didn't want you to be alone up there." It looked scary. Something shifted in Daniel's chest, an almost imperceptible crack in the concrete he'd poured around his heart. "What's your name?" Daniel found himself asking, voice rough. "Marcus," the boy answered, his hands stuffed deep in the pockets of his oversized coat. "Been on the street a couple years, I think. Hard to keep track." Daniel swallowed hard. His gaze flicked back to the black, churning river below. "You don't understand, Marcus. I had everything, and I ruined it. There's nothing left worth staying for." Marcus tilted his head, thoughtful. Then, quietly, he said words that Daniel would remember for the rest of his life. "I don't have anything. No family, no warm bed, no fancy job. But I still want to see tomorrow. You know why? 'Cause maybe tomorrow, I get a hot meal. Or someone smiles at me. Or maybe I get to help somebody like you." The word struck Daniel like a bolt. A boy who had nothing still found hope in the smallest things, and here he was, a man who had once had everything, ready to throw it all away. His legs trembled. Slowly, he climbed down from the ledge, boots clunking against the concrete walkway as he landed. His breath escaped him in a ragged sob. Marcus offered a small, toothy smile, as if they'd just finished a casual conversation. "Good. I didn't want to have to climb up there and get you." A laugh, real, startled, unpracticed, bubbled out of Daniel's chest. His shoulders shook as the laugh gave way to tears. For the first time in months, maybe years, he felt seen. They sat together on the cold bench nearby, strangers stitched together by an invisible thread neither of them could explain. Daniel told Marcus about his life, his career, his divorce, the court case that had crumbled everything. Marcus nodded patiently, never judging, only listening. In turn, Marcus shared fragments of his own story. His mother had passed when he was 9. His father, broken by grief and addiction, disappeared soon after. He bounced through foster homes until he finally gave up on the system and took to the streets. "People think homeless kids are dangerous or lazy," Marcus said, kicking a pebble with his worn shoe. "But mostly, we're just invisible. Like ghosts walking around." Something deep inside Daniel stirred. "Where are you staying tonight?" he asked. Marcus shrugged again. Under the train bridge by Canal Street, maybe. It's warmer there. Daniel's jaw clenched. He didn't know what he was doing, not exactly, but for the first time in a long while, he felt purpose ignite inside him. Not tonight. Come with me. I'll get us both something warm to eat. They ended up at an all-night diner on Clark Street. The fluorescent lights buzzed softly, and the waitress raised an eyebrow at the mismatched pair but said nothing as Daniel ordered 2 plates of pancakes, eggs, and hot chocolate. Marcus ate slowly at first, then ravenously, like he was afraid it would disappear if he didn't savor it. Over the following weeks, their unlikely friendship grew. Daniel, with time and counseling, began piecing his life back together. His sister, whom he hadn't spoken to in years, welcomed him back into her life after he reached out, apologizing for his silence. With her encouragement, he took small steps toward healing. But what surprised everyone the most, what shocked them, was what he did next. Daniel used the remnants of his savings and legal expertise to start the Tomorrow Project, a non-profit dedicated to helping homeless youth in Chicago. With Marcus as his first ambassador, they created outreach programs offering shelter, legal aid, education, and mentorship to kids just like Marcus. Local media caught wind of their mission after a video interview with Daniel and Marcus went viral. Donations flooded in. Volunteers signed up in droves. One by one, lives quietly began to transform. At the opening of the first shelter, Daniel stood on stage beside Marcus, now freshly showered, wearing clean clothes, and standing taller than he ever had. His smile was no longer uncertain, it radiated. Daniel's voice quivered as he addressed the crowd. Months ago, I stood on a bridge, ready to end my life. I thought I had lost everything worth living for. But a boy with nothing reminded me that even in our darkest moments, there is always a flicker of light. Sometimes, it takes the smallest voice to guide us back. He looked at Marcus and nodded, his throat thick with emotion. This shelter is called Marcus House. Because if one boy can save a life, imagine how many more can be saved when we stand together. The crowd erupted in applause, but it wasn't the noise that filled Daniel's heart, it was the quiet, unshakable truth that kindness, even from the most unexpected places, can ripple outward in ways we can't fathom. Years later, Marcus went on to graduate college with honors. He became a social worker, dedicating his life to helping kids like the boy he once was. On the anniversary of that night, he and Daniel would always meet on the Monroe Street Bridge, not to remember despair, but to celebrate hope. To remind themselves, and each other, that even when you think you have nothing left to give, a single act of compassion can change everything. And for anyone who happened to pass by, seeing the man and the young man standing side by side laughing under the city lights, it was hard not to believe that maybe tomorrow could be just a little bit brighter after all.